And yeah, today we have Cristiana that we're going to bring us this fantastic topic about notifications. Cristiana is a senior user experience from Sage. And without further ado, because we're going to move into the actually really and gold juice information that Cristiana has to offer to share with us. Cristiana, take the stage, please.
Okay.
I'm going to stop sharing from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. Make sure I share with sound. Okay.
And feel free to do like a proper introduction.
Yes. 1 second, just to make sure. I'm closing all the Zoom menus and make sure we fit the screen. Now, do you see my screen? It's good.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And now it's not working, of course. Good. So let me introduce myself. The 15 there, it's the official number of my years in design. I don't know if this will say that I'm experienced or quite old, but it is my number. I'm currently working as a UX designer, and I'm also an accessibility champion at Sage. I'm also a mentor at OneSum. Thank you for your support. I saw some of my mentees, and I'm pretty proud. I'm also a volunteer for Code for Romania. I'm a big fan of their work. We have 4 amazing teams, which I'm trying to lead and mentoring for them. And also because I have about 11 years background in fine arts and 2D classical animation and motion graphics. I still like to play with the artistic projects, and I'm a member of Visual Artists Union in Romania. Moving forward, I'm looking to upgrade my skills in mentoring and service design. And yeah, this is me. And I like authors. If you want to be my friend, just send me an author. Image, reel, it doesn't matter. It's all it takes. And now it's not working. Okay. I hope I can stay on full screen. Let's try like this. Despite the title, I will not talk about only about messages and notifications. As will present you some insights and learnings from our use case to craft accessible notifications, we will also cover some general challenges that you might have when you try to make a change in your design system, and you would like to avoid this butterfly effect, and you want to understand the entire system to do the right thing, to not break some additional things, let's say. Also, I will present you some of our challenges that we had for testing the notifications. It's a specific use case, but we are also covering how to overcome the challenges to accommodate user testing with users with disabilities. And all this will flow into our daily designer challenges and how to innovate and do great things without waiting for approval, no matter what your title is in your company. And why care? Let's start with this one. I mean, notifications are such a small part of a design system, and I thought you might not believe me, so I started with an example from a trustful source like Science Direct. They published a study. They asked 90 participants to say, first they asked, what would be the best and the worst experience from these 4 screens you are seeing right now? And they said, and it might be really obvious, that the last one, the logo with the description, would be the best experience, and the worst would be the empty screen. When they tested, they kept these screens for 15 seconds, and actually it came out that the worst was the spinner, what leads to a conclusion that the poor feedback can be more detrimental than the no feedback at all. Somehow, I mean, it's the way we are talking with our users, so we need to be careful. This is why we started to investigate this small component, the toast messages, and let's see how and why they are not accessible. What can we do? If you notice those toast messages and you feel like they're quite annoying and distracting, you might be right. So they might have different challenges with the focus order, with the interruptions, like they are doing now while I'm trying to present. But the main issue for us was the timing adjustable one. This guideline, this UK criterion is saying that we should provide users enough time to read and use the content. And you have 3 options to comply: to allow the user to turn off the time limit before encountering the message, or to allow the user to adjust the time limit over a wide range that is at least 10 times the length of the default setting, or to keep them for 20 hours. For us to build a specific setting option technique to adjust the timing was not doable for us in that moment. So what we've left with are these 2 options. One is to keep them for 20 hours, which you can imagine that may lead to clutter, and the messages may become irrelevant, and we might create even a worse experience for all the users with stacked messages from yesterday. And the other solution that you might need to keep in mind is to provide an alternative. I mean, imagine the toast message is just popping up on your screen. You're just turning, I know, your head to take a look on your on the other screen, on the window, and you miss the message. But you can provide an alternative to keep the messages in the notification center. If you have like issues to use the mouse or anything, you can have your own time and go there. You will find your message in the notification center. But you cannot put everything in there. Again, you'll risk irrelevance and cluttered experience. What we like to call, we will end up with a toast center. You know, you cannot put everything there because it will create a mess. And in our case, the notification center was not available in all our products. This was the context, and this is the team, a small team for now. The issue was raised by our accessibility specialist, Martin, and this is me. And with Agata, my dear colleague, we started to investigate this. We found some other colleagues that were doing the same thing on another project, and this is how it started. We started with the obvious. We know that we have 4 types of messages, like informational ones, success, warning, and errors. It seems quite straightforward, this tiny component. And we have here an example with a simple error message. We also have, in some cases, a call to action. You need to keep in mind that the user needs to react fast enough to reach the call to action to try again. In some cases, we might have wordy messages with call to action, hard to read everything in 5 seconds. And we have the success message. Some of you might say, do we need this success message? Are these important? I mean, it's always about finding the right balance between helping the user and not annoying them. I mean, all these notifications are creating a lot of noise in the end. But let me ask you something. If you're just about to send money to somebody, or if you're sending an email to your recruiter for your dream job, do you care about the success message? In my opinion, we should care about the emotional context of our user, and we should not split. You'll find a lot of articles on the internet about these criterions for the messages, but always keep in mind your user and the context in which he reacts. And we have these technical challenges. What happens if the user clicks again and again on a button? The system reacts quite slowly, and we end up with multiple messages stacked. I'm pretty sure you know this use case, or you at least once you had stacked messages on your screen. And sometimes you might have even mixed semantics, like success messages with error messages. This is the first thing. From this point, we started what we like to call a toast audit. You know the UX audit? Well, we did one for the toast messages. We wanted to understand how many of them are spread in our products, how do we use them, how much do we count on this message, and what would be the additional challenges we might have when we just try to fix or remove the toast message. The record found was about 144 messages, success and errors in one product. And some of them have too much content, and some of them have also a button, a call to action that is quite hard to reach in 5 seconds, and some of them are not really helpful. So it's not so simple just to remove them or put them in the notification center. And this was the turning point. We had two options: to limit the usage of these toast messages. But this will come with a challenge to educate and align a substantial team of 170 colleagues. And in some of the products, I already said, we didn't have the notification center to make them accessible in a way. On the other hand, we had this simple, straightforward solution to completely remove the pain, the toast messages. And we have enough components to rely to fulfill their role. This was our messaging landscape, let's say. We have components for discrete messages. When you don't want to interrupt the user, just let them know something happened. And you move on to dialogues and full screen dialogues for urgent messages that will stop the user from the task they are doing. This one, for example, is completely, the full screen one is completely stopping the flow, and the notification center. Good. Now, we try to remove them, and we end up with what we call the toast legacy. The obvious thing was to replace them with the inline version. It looks almost the same, except that it's not floating. The toast message will appear wherever you are in your port view. The inline message, though, is usually triggered by an event, like an error, warning, doesn't matter, in the context. I will say it again, in the context of the user's task. And it's placed close to the item needing attention. And it's persistent until the user closes it, take another action, or solves the issue. Now, my message here is related to a background process, to some import. So it's not tied to anything I'm working on, it's up. We said, okay, we put it in the main area of the page, but my main area, it's up and I'm not seeing it. And you can imagine that if I'm using a screen reader or a keyboard, it's even worse. If I'm using a magnifier for the browser, again, I'm not seeing it. This is why we added a new scale, let's say, for our messages, from contextual messages to general messages. It was quite obvious that, okay, we have the one that we can type to the component. Like we have this small example here with the input field. You have the error state, which is tied to the component. It's there, it's safe. Then we have some messages that we can place in the context, like you press on the button and the message is appearing right above the button. You're saying, okay, this one could not be completed because of an API error. And you just have to click again on the button, or I don't know, something else. From here, it's good. It's safe and simple. But we start to have now the messages that are not related to the UI on the page. We have two categories. We have the messages that could not be placed where the user is working, like a table. Just imagine a table. You're working and you're doing something, you have a confirmation or an error. And don't say, let's place the icon in the table and we'll just put a stroke around the row. It's not working. This is not accessibility. We should not rely only on the color because we might have users with color blindness. You cannot imagine how many people have color blindness and they didn't know until we test them. Also, the icon might rely on the vision, on the culture, on the cognitive issues. So it's not safe, it's not accessible. You need a description. You need to say what happened. So we have these messages that might be missed. And then we have the informational one or the general ones. Or imagine that you are on the page. You're generating a report. The system requires some time to fulfill the action, to trigger, to pull the data and generate your report. So you move on with your life, with your task, and after 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 minutes, 1 hour, your message pops up about the import or the report generated. It's completely out of the context. So you will draw focus. If you draw the focus, you stop the user from what he's doing. So you need to consider the placement really carefully. This is how we ended up in our lab phase. The lab phase was to take our newest and shiniest product, to promise that we will make it accessible, then to test it with the dev tools available. We had no errors. We had just a few toast messages, few like dozens. But anyway, it was easier to handle. And we said, let's remove completely the toast messages. Let's replace them with some other components and test it. And now I will ask you to join me on Slido, and let's try to imagine the process together. I hope you can scan the QR code. Let me also add the link in the chat.
It's important to reinforce that this one, it's specific for
yes.
the different one.
Yes, please don't answer to the questions or don't ask questions. Those we will answer at the end. Now it's just about this exercise. Just give us some thumbs up or something. Or should I see everyone? I don't know. Let's start the first poll. Okay.
Yeah. I have on my screen, yes, no, not sure. I'm the
yes. So
Let's
we
go.
see this small, simple message. Imagine that I'm saving something. It's a document. It's no matter what it is. I'm doing something and I'm saving it. And I have this message above the table. Do you find it useful? Just simple or not. Imagine that you are in this position. Good. I see some yes. I should maybe do this. Up, 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 up. I don't know how to do this. I didn't. Let's see.
Do you share the results? No, not yet.
Oh, yes, you're right. I should not share the results. I assumed that people already voted. Oh, yes, perfect. You can only see the slides. So I need to find a way to show you the results. Or it's when we deactivate the poll, you'll see the results.
Maybe, or if you can share the...
Yes. Do you see the results? There was a lot of yes, I will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can show the results at the end. There was a lot of yes. Good.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on. Let's add some explanation. Let's say we are telling the user why the error happened, and let's not force them to go to the table and come back to the message to try again or dismiss or to go back to save. Let's say we are improving a little bit. Then we have the success message. I will not ask you about all, just a few of them. We have the success message. And I told you about this use case when we have multiple messages. Let's do something and combine all to have only one message instead of stacked messages. The stacked messages will pull down your content and will make a pretty poor experience for your users. So if you have similar items, like documents, whatever you have, if it's a similar message, you can have a counter and display one message instead of multiple messages. Now, let's imagine that we have combined messages. This might be confusing. Imagine that you're drawing the focus or the user is going up and you see, this is success, this is not, this is an error, and so on. Which one is true and for which of the items from the table? So what we can do, again, if the actions are the same, you can use the counter, but smarter. You can say one of the three items could not be saved. This way, you communicate to the user that two of them were successful and one of them just failed. Go on. If you have an error, if you already decided to stop the user because you might have also the call to action, why not using the dialogue instead? You have enough place to display the description, the details, you offer the option to try again. So is this an option? If you want to take this responsibility of stopping the user from what he's doing, you can do this. Then we have this. Think about a repetitive action. Think about bulk actions when you have multiple actions triggered in the same time. Instead of displaying multiple messages, you can put them all in one dialogue and offer an option to save one by one or save them all with one click. And for this one, I would like one second. Do you see the next question? I can say it on, yeah.
Yep.
Please, again, play with me. Do you think it's better or not? Let's wait for a few more. Okay. Again, I will try to show you the results at the end because I don't want to stop the sharing. We have one more participant ranking. The winner is yes. We have, again, yes. Good. Then we have one more option. What if I'm telling you, you can prevent all this? Why wouldn't we try to avoid all these issues and communicate upfront that we will have some errors and have the option to continue with the remaining 7 of 9 or go back and fix the issues? Depending on your scenario and on your product and on your, let me place once again. I think with this one you will agree or not. I don't know. I'm talking too much. We have the third one. You can disagree. And honestly, I would like you to disagree and debate at the end of the presentation. So ignore me, ignore whatever I'm saying. Just vote whatever you think. I mean, you need to answer not based on the theory, but how you feel it. If you are the user and you're seeing these messages, how do you find them? That's it. Good. Okay, we have now one more. 1 second. It's okay. I will leave the poll open and I will move on and discuss at the end. Right now, some of you are saying no, more than yes, to clarify. I'm not lying. I will show you at the end. Good. This was the lab. I showed you just one use case. Of course, we will have in a product so many use cases, so many things to consider. We finished our lab phase. We tried so many things and we analyzed and we tested from accessibility point of view, from technical point of view, and we were ready to test it. I mean, since the tool check like X was saying that we have no errors, we had to understand more about the behavior. And sometimes even if it's quite accessible, it doesn't mean you are creating a good experience for your users. So I asked for help and we started in November 2022. And by September 2023, this was my team. An atomic combination of UX designers, the design system specialists, UX user researchers, and the accessibility experts that joined this project and helped us. And they have led the experience from now on. And of course, with the great support from our managers, we found the budget to do it. Let's see how this testing for accessibility is posing new challenges. We need to start with the Figma limitations. Once you want to test something as designers, you start to create your prototype. And what basically Figma is doing is ignoring your cute cat and is reading the description in the order that you have the layers, ignoring what you have on the frame, and you need to make sure that all your layers are in the right order with the right description. And if you have a button, it should not just look like a button, it should be a button. So a lot of work on this side, and still a lot of them are not available. You cannot test with people with that needs a high contrast or to invert colors. You cannot have the zoom from the browser. You have limited options. You can test just some of them. And I would like to show you, because this will start with a noise. When you test with people with disabilities, you need to understand also their challenges and the limitations the assistive technology has, because otherwise you will not be able to help the user. And it can be quite stressful and you don't want to make them feel even more disabled, let's say. And I will show you just a small demo from testing with screen reader.
Over on system option locked.
I hope you can hear
vertical
this.
Splitter scroll area. You are currently on a scroll area. Safari draft transactions vertical line sandbox verticals draft transactions
here
vertical line sandbox vertical line
is a
sage
simple
business menu.
task.
6
We
items.
ask the user to click on this
Off.
split
Closing
transaction.
menu.
It's
Draft
just
transactions vertical line sandbox
one
vertical
click.
control locked. Command down. Option down. Command lock. Command off. Option
It's getting
locked.
worse.
You are currently on web content. To enter the web draft transactions vertical line shift down. Shift off.
Let me in.
Heading level 1. Check 1 add check field sort this tote sort date. Cannot ship. There are 2 met table. Date. Cop sort this amount. Cop action. Say row 2 of source. Description amount. Split amount button GB customer plus £9.13.
The user reached the
Sidebar,
button
web dialog,
that you are
with 3
reaching
items,
in
50
literally 1
over on
second.
system.
So this is the experience. This is how you are testing. And you need somehow, if the user is somehow blocked, you need to help them. and it's also the screen reader, and you need to understand how to help the user in this situation. It's quite stressful for both the user and the researchers. This is why we had two phases. We started with the internal panel. And if you have this opportunity in your company, you can set up an internal accessibility user panel. There's a lot of people that have different needs, and it's not something that you see. It's not obvious, you know. Okay, there are people that are using the wheelchair, or they have, you know, they cannot see. But there are a lot of other disabilities and challenges for people that are not so obvious. And this is what one of my colleagues has done. This panel with nice people from Sage that agreed to help us test our product. We tested with the test environment. We had just a dirty, quick solution to test internally. This means we had no additional implementation effort required, and it was a safe space to play, to learn and to play with the scenario, and for user researcher to understand more about this kind of needs for this kind of users. Once we had the first round and we could have the first insights and we learned how to deal with this, we moved on to an external user testing with Userlytics. Again, I totally recommend this because they can help you do a specific accessibility targeted recruitment. I mean, you don't know so many people with the issues, and you cannot ask them. So, and some of them might feel uncomfortable to tell you about their problems. So it's good that with this kind of platform, you have access to recruit whatever you need. Well, not whatever, but they have a lot of options. And this time we created an HTML prototype to test different scenarios. And let me explain you why. Let's go back to our notifications. How to test something that is not by default there without asking people about them. These are the notifications, and this was our question. So basically, it's not like on the regular user testing where you're presenting and you let them do whatever they want. You cannot have the messages there on the screen and ask them, do you like this? Do you find useful, as I did with you? Actually, you have to create a scenario that will somehow force the user on the particular path, and the messages will be generated. And more than this, because we wanted to test all kinds of messages, we split in categories from the previous session, and we wanted to test them all. We created fake triggers. Like if you want a random message, like you have a maintenance scheduled for next week, and this should appear random on top of your screen, we set as the trigger a button from a previous task. Or if we wanted to test like an asynchronous action, like you import something, in our case, some transactions, we gave the user, in some cases, a wrong file. It was just the date, it was just a detail to tweak, nothing obvious, but the system would recognize that it's a duplicate or the extension is not correct or something. So we just used a right or a wrong file to generate the success or the error messages. We could play with this. Even more on this HTML prototype, you can have like settings, like switcher to enable or disable some messages. And it's really great that you can test with or without. Or as I showed you, the placement, you can test with the message placed above or below or whatever you want. So this was our best option, because you cannot expect the user to make the mistake. You need to work a little bit more. Now, wrapping up all the story about the messages. So keep in mind, the toast messages can be successfully replaced with inline message in most of the cases. If the message cannot be placed in the context where the user is performing the task, you might want to draw the focus, to force the viewport to have the message in the middle, to force the browser to move the message, sorry. Or you can use the dialogue instead. In some cases, I know this is quite technical, but you can ask a developer. You can use an ARIA live region. This means the screen reader will perceive that in a particular area, a message just appeared, and it will read the message, but it will not stop the user from the current task. When you have multiple messages, use the counter, or what I didn't show you is the error summary. This means it's a message that also includes links to jump to the dedicated area. You might have seen this in some forms. And you need to consider the frequency of interruptions caused by alerts. And just the final considerations, keep in mind, it's almost never just a component. It's always part of an ecosystem. And accessibility should be an integral aspect of every stage of any design project and not just a patch in the end. It will be much harder to fix at the end if you don't start early. Now you see the entire timeline here. It took us long to get here, and the secret is progress over perfection. We didn't wait for the perfect guidance. We communicated after each milestone. We had different presentations. We had different accessibility reviews. We have regular guilds in our company to communicate and help designers avoid these issues or build better experience. You know, once we found out, like, don't wait to have that guidance with everything aligned and perfect and the rules already set. You can just jump in and say, look, I think we have a problem. Then I know we have a problem. Then we might have a solution. Then I know we have a solution. And like this. And it's okay. It's okay to iterate, and it's okay not to be perfect. And we applied the 1% principle in 1 year. I think you all know this kind of inspirational images and the famous formula. If you start from 1.00 and you start the progress, just to add like 1.01, just 1%, by the end of the year, you'll have 37, 0.8, I think, the progress by the end of the year. And this is what we did in our 1% during a year. We removed the toast messages in some of our products. We help guiding other designers to avoid adding new ones. And it's so important, so we don't, you don't take with one hand and put with the other. We had to collaborate. We set the foundation for a new messaging and notification system, and we are currently building a new guidance, now the perfect one. We had like 2 drafts already. And we had the first user testing for accessibility in Sage. And this one was an amazing opportunity for all our researchers and for other designers to learn about this experience. Yeah, I know this is kind of cheesy, but I still like it. I failed so many times, and I still remember how I failed alone, and it's quite late, during my journey. And I can tell you, it goes so much easier when you have help. To go from this small team to this bigger team, it required passion and consistency, and it's easier when you believe in what you're doing, and you'll start to inspire people to do the same. This is what happened with this project. This project started as a small side project with just 2 people, and we ended up with a big team because we started to talk to people and ask for help, and people started to see some value and they wanted to join. They said something, I mean, in the first place, they were not sure, do we really need this? sounds so complicated. We should just remove them. Then, but this is interesting. Can I help? I know somebody who can help us. And in the end, all these people started to promote somehow, to sell the project in the company. And at one moment, I mean, we had a retrospective, and I wanted to add this. It's so personal, and it will not mean anything for you. But for us, for me, it meant the whole world. When one of my colleagues added the sticky notes that we are now move on from the side project and we're worthy of having the full project status. And we also found the budget for testing because it's more expensive. It's not so easy. So you need to embrace the process. So this is how we do it. And the last thing, I think I learned so much from this experience. And I know that it doesn't sound so well, but somehow we sell ourselves, our skills, our personal branding, as Angelina would say, every day in our company, around us, to win the trust of the people we need help from, you know. And this is it. Over to you. It's your turn. This is my story. I know it was about something that is not so exciting as Toast messages, but I hope you can see it like an opportunity and a story to inspire you to do your great things, to choose your project that you love, to invest 1% for 1 year to see the results. That's it. I'm ready.
So far we have two. The first one was actually me. And
Okay,
this is just go through that process. I don't know, maybe you could explain better than in terms of how difficult it was to convince your team / company to do this experiment. And did you went through a quite a slow and quiet process of just talking individually, and later on you move into expanding this into a a talk internally to expand this to a bigger audience?
Yes, it's a good question, because at the beginning I didn't know we have something. It was like that story with the enormous turnip. When you find a leaf, you start to pull, you think it's just a small radish or turnip, and then it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and you need help. This is the story. I didn't know in the first place that we have something more than just a quick fix. And in the first place, because I didn't know what to ask, I started to study on my own. And I forgot to tell you this. I mean, if you have, again, back to that 1%, if you have like 5 minutes, 8 minutes, you start to read. In 10 minutes, you can read like 2 articles per day. So this is what I did. I was not sure I can ask for help because I didn't know I needed. So I started to study on my own. Then I started to ask people. I was in my first month in Sage and I didn't know anybody. I mean, it was really hard to find the right people. I started to ask everybody, like, do you know something? Do you know something? Do you know something about this? And everything, like the magic happens when the first person is not saying no. They're not saying yes, but they're not saying no. When I asked the accessibility team, can we do the user testing? Well, we don't know. We don't know exactly, because it was, as I told you, it was the first user testing. So they were not sure. So it's up to you to make people trust you and support you. And usually they will follow you in the end if it's a good thing. If not, we could all say that it's not worthy and we could just, drop the project.
Move on.
It's about patience, it will not happen in one day. You will not go and say, I have an idea, and everyone will join because you have the idea. You need to work on your own, and then people will come.
No, of course. It's kind of like, need to evangelize the idea first. Yeah. And at the same time, we all know that, companies, they have roadmaps. And perhaps this was not on the roadmap, means that, allocate time, budget, This is a train that doesn't stop and is important. That's why, this, when I was asking what was the approach, and I was doing the same, just going one by one and just trying to recruit to onboard, just to, because, going alone is difficult, but it's fast. But going together, it's better because we have more people.
Yeah.
We have another one. Let me see. Do you think you can expand this guidance to work for all use cases, or something are specific to your product and cannot be extrapolated?
No, I mean, we need to create the guidance that can be applied, in Sage. I mean, we are building the guidance based on the best practices. This is why I mentioned we couldn't use the notification center at that moment, but it's a viable solution if you have one. So, this was the purpose, to build something that will be for the entire Sage ecosystem, not one product. But we had to start somewhere. You cannot test all the products in the same time. You need to start with something, test it, and if it's working, you can go further and further and further and add more use cases and more products. And this is why I was talking to everybody. I mean, I was like the crazy toast lady who was hunting use cases. I was joining some meetings just to, I saw a message. Can you explain me the use case? Yeah, it was funny.
Interesting.
Now it's funny.
And now we have another one. And on this one, before we move into the next question, because things are popping into my mind, we saw, and you explained, the challenges with testing tools, and end up still choosing the HTML that was the most proper one. On the phase 2, the intentions are to move and test this on mobile devices as well, or moving from desktop only, because that is another challenge as well.
Yes, it's a big challenge, and we want to finish first with the web. It's quite difficult for now to handle the same things on mobile. We have a lot of issues with the native components and patterns. So for now, I will be honest with you, we want to solve it at least on web. I mean, it's always accessibility in our mind, and we are always checking for mobile. But for web, we are aiming to be 100% accessible. And on mobile, for now, we're just trying to build a better. I hope we can do this soon for mobile also.
Yeah, because that will be another big challenge.
Yes.
Great,
yes,
thank
I
you.
know.
We have another one. Are there any other initiatives or ideas related to accessibility that you might explore in the future? Because you just opened one, and now during this 12 months or more, you discover for sure other problems.
While we were testing the notifications, we are testing in the actual product, because you cannot test some, I don't know, imagined use cases. Again, I didn't want it to make it about our work and our project. This is why I showed you wireframes. But we were testing in the usual scenarios, like you are a small business owner and you do your thing. At the end of the month, you do your accounting. So you have your regular tasks. So while we were testing the notifications, we were testing the product, and we found additionally considerations for accessibility. And also, for example, the table soon will be replaced with a responsive list of cards in order to solve this issue, because we cannot fix that damn message. So for now, we made that message accessible, and the team, not me in this case, started to explore what options we have to replace the entire table and provide something that is accessible and really responsive on mobile, and we can provide actions and notifications in the context. So this is how it goes, from one step to another.
Okay, cool. Any questions more, please? No? I will add another one, and this will be the last one. This is a side project, means that during your time, you have to allocate time to do this. How easy was to adjust, taking consideration that you have, specific tasks to complete from, that are on a sprint, depending the way that the company is working, how you allocate your time, or this was one thing that you communicated to your line manager, just to say, look, I'm going to allocate X just to do this, just to be visible and open, and at the same time, you're the first one to know exactly what I'm doing. It is just for us to understand, ways of dealing with this, because just imagine if someone that is, attending this would move and say, how I'm going to implement this,
Yeah.
tomorrow, because I know I have this in my mind that I want to actually move on. Yeah.
Yes. As I said, I started in my own time until I was sure what I'm doing. What I was sure when I was sure what I want, then I said to my manager, I would like to invest in this. I said this will not affect my usual projects, but can I have like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day per month, or something like this? I mean, because we increased the time dedicated to this project, to do some research. And I think no manager in the world, and if it does, you should just leave, would tell you, no, don't do this. We don't have 5 hours. You don't have 5 minutes to read an article. You don't have half an hour to explore this use case. I mean, no one will say this. When you're saying, please, can I have this half hour per week for me to investigate this? We will do this. This will be the benefits. This will be my personal development time. I was lucky to have in Sage this kind of innovation programs and personal development time. So you should aim to work for this kind of companies, to be honest, where the companies are investing in people. And this is why those people joined the project, because they saw, I mean, they were all volunteers, let's say. Nobody tracked the time on their usual, in Jira, but everyone saw something to learn from it. They saw value. So everyone started to do the same. And when you have like half an hour from Cristiana and half an hour from this one, from this person and from this person, you start to to progress, to really progress. You don't need to stop everything and dedicate 1 month. I mean, you can imagine that we would finish the project in probably 1 month if we were focusing on it. But it's better, right? It's better like this. It's better later than never. I mean, it's true. We have to run the business. We cannot stop for, I don't know, for side projects.
No, for sure. And I'll finish with this, that you actually brought that illustration that exemplify exactly that is the effect of compounding. Because 5 minutes from you, 10 minutes from your colleague,
Yes.
Across just a week, a month, a quarter, and accumulating all these. Of course, that from documentation perspective, what tools did you use to just collect all the information and just for those that work on the project, added that information? What type of tools you use internally stuff, or there was an option of creating a Notion doc?
One thing that we did, and I recommend, is to have like a regular catch-up. It forces you to allocate those 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever you have available before the meeting. And if you didn't, at least you'll join and you'll help brainstorming and gather ideas, and maybe you'll get inspired, and maybe you'll find the time next week. This is what we did, and I think it's really important. If you wait to have the best time to gather and ideate, you'll wait a few months. If you just put like half an hour in your calendar, 1 hour for the team to meet, you'll see that you'll get the progress that you want. That's it. And we worked with Figma and Miro and the usual tools. It's nothing. Yeah,
Fantastic.
just passion.
Oh yeah, that is the most important thing. We're just reaching the end. I will say again, thank you everyone for attending the second design online talks. This for us is an experiment as well. We want to give the opportunity and just across the 6 previous months before the actual event have talks like this one, and this time we touched the subject more on the design system and all the notification part and all that. I will say thank you and see you in another edition. Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
in the next one. Thank you so much all for attending. Have a great day. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.